Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne broadcasting live from Orange Beach, Alabama. This morning at the Bella Luna, looking out over beautiful Wolf Bay. Absolutely gorgeous. Love to get you a better camera shot, but hell, the glare, the sun is so bright, you can't see. But got a full show in store for you today. Going to be joined in just a minute by big game hunter. Really cool story. Young man Josh Carney loves to hunt. Nothing stops him from hunting. He'll be joining us here in just a moment to tell some stories that I think our audience is pretty wired into college football, basketball, baseball, recruiting. Also love hunting and fishing. And as Ted Nugent said, if you take your kids hunting, you don't have to go hunting for your kids. So it's a great idea to take them hunting. In the second segment, Gary Harris joins us from Tuscaloosa, Tide 100.9. WVUA TV 23 does Tider Insider TV with our friend Rodney Orr. Hour number 2, the AD Angle. Coach Matt Dean from Rhodes College in Memphis and John Hartwell, the AD at ULM, will check in with us as well. And we'll cover a lot. We're going to cover all the teams. SEC, we'll get into the AAC. We'll get into the Sun Belt. We'll cover them all. That's what we do. College football season is here. And I think the only thing bigger in the state of Alabama than college football is hunting and fishing. And I think that's fair to say. And look, we have, again, I know our audience. We got a growing audience. We're very blessed to have a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers. We're here 6 days a week, 25 times a month. Folks, that's 50 hours of content, over 300 shows a year. All right. You want to get your message out? We're glad to do it for you. Let me say this. The St. Paul Open, the first ever, coming up October 2nd, Chickasaw Country Club in Memphis, a dinner the night before. They still have an opportunity to get a few flag sponsors, okay? And this is to benefit the Archbishop J. Peter Sarton Scholarship Fund, October 2nd at Chickasaw Country Club. If you're interested in supporting the event, whether you're Catholic or not, you went to St. Paul, Bishop Browne, you went to Our Lady of Sorrows in Fraser. It doesn't matter, Catholic or not. It's a great cause. That money all goes to work for scholarships. Call Michael Jordan, 901-647-3014. Also, this first hour brought to you by our good friends at rumbleboxinggym.com, 1835 Union Avenue in Memphis. It's in Midtown Memphis now, right on the corner of Union and McLean. This is the first of 3 gyms that owner Ann Camp Lee is going to build in the Memphis market. Just explain it to you. These workouts are intense. 15 3-minute sessions, 45 minutes, which is the length of a prize fight, okay? You go in there, you're going to be doing star jacks, burpees, jumping jacks, dips, planks, push-ups, crunches, dumbbells, then punching those 250-pound bags. 48 people in these classes. They got really cool lights. It is nonstop, high energy. I would compare it to land swimming. It's that intense of a workout. You can buy all the gear that you need there. You can get everything that you need to make this happen. But that is rumbleboxinggym.com. Check them out on our website at sidelines.live. Let's get rolling here. Josh Carney. Josh, my good friend Neil Johnson, like an older brother to me, one of the famous Johnson family, met you up in Nashville a few weeks ago and said, Bobby, you got to get this guy on your show because we talk a lot about hunting and fishing. We talk college football. They all go hand in hand. I mean, it's like people that like to work out typically hang out in gyms where they can work out, and they like to do it. You love hunting and fishing. I like to say it the way we say it in the South. You're from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We got a lot of great LSU folks that listen, and we cover the Tigers. I don't know who you're a fan of, but I think you're a bigger fan of the hook and the bullet, man. Let's talk about it. Well, first off, thank you for taking time to join us on this Thursday morning edition of Sidelines. I think we didn't really go to bed last night. We got down here to Orange Beach, and the rest of my crew, they all stayed up till about 3 and went, man, I thought it was about 11. So it if I seem a little bit like I got jet lag this morning, I'm gonna let you take over. But Josh, let's talk about your story, how much you love hunting and fishing, and ain't nothing gonna keep you from doing your favorite thing.
Yeah, Rob, man, I appreciate you having me on here. It's a great morning. We started off real great. I mean, like we got up this morning, and you did this morning. We had some birds across the road, so it's something that I really enjoy watching those turkeys. Turkeys is a favorite thing of mine, so I started the day off pretty good. So I'm happy, excited about that. But like you said, I'm born and raised Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I spent all of my childhood hunting and fishing growing up. That's what I love. I was outdoors, passionate about it. And as time went on, I just fell in love with it more and more. And I just fell into, my life it's transitioned to where I fell into being in love with the passion of hunting and fishing, and it allowed me to turn into a career. But, it didn't start off as me, just hopping into, the hunting industry as far as, making a career out of it. I grew up South Louisiana, hunt, fish, crazy amount of hours in the woods. And from there, like I said, I fell in love with being outdoors. I had my own pack of rabbit dogs, and that was my favorite thing. I love rabbit hunting. Just love hearing beagles run and chase through the woods. And so I grew up hunting small game, and then after that, I transitioned into hunting deer at the age of 11. The first deer hunt by myself in a tripod stand, sitting in St. Francisville, Louisiana, and I harvested my first deer, and then I got the rite of passage when you kill your first deer. Someone takes a big handful of glory and smear it on your face. So I was hooked at that point, and then I wanted to explore more. Like I wanted to be in outdoors. Like every moment that I had, like I wanted to be outdoors. Like once I got out of school, I was like, okay, like how can I get to being outdoors? So my dad had a cabin shop, and it had some property behind the cabin shop, and he would go to work, and I would go play. I'd like get my I was a 410 guy for a long time.
Yeah.
Long time, single shot 410. And man, I was deadly with that little thing. And every squirrel and rabbit in the county, knew my name. So I would chase them, and I just had fun with it. And then I transitioned from that, and I was like, man, I want to go turkey hunting. It looks like a fun thing to do. Like I want to go chase turkeys. And all the guys on TV make it look so easy. They're like, they'll get two sticks together and start rubbing them together, makes a little funky call, and birds come running in. I was like, man, that's got to be the easiest thing ever. And I got to say, TV hunting is definitely a lie. Like, I mean, it's not as easy as people make it look. But
yeah, no.
So
well, keep going.
Yeah, so we discovered turkey hunting. So I did everything that I could to learn about turkey hunting. I mean, I would go to the library at school. I'd get books, and like I had to read about like how to locate turkeys, how to find turkeys, what turkey tracks look like, the difference between a hen turkey's poop and a tom's poop look like. I mean, I wanted to know everything I needed to know about turkeys because I was going in. I was gonna, if I'm going to do something, I'm gonna dive all in.
Yeah.
So got some calls from Walmart, and just I think I aggravated my parents more than anything, but just by going around the house with those dang turkey calls, sounded like a dying rabbit. And
I love it.
Finally got to the point to where I got pretty decent at it, and I was like, all right, let's go turkey hunting. So one Sunday after church, me and my dad go turkey hunting. First turkey hunt ever. We park in a place that we hunted for a long time, and we park a truck and we get out and go. We go in the woods. I find a feather in the road, and I was like, all right, so this is a turkey feather. And I'm thinking at the time, I'm thinking it's a turkey feather, but it probably wasn't a turkey feather because I'm thinking, looking back at it, it was probably a buzzard, but I didn't know the difference. I was like,
yeah,
this spot, birds are here. And we go into this cutover, and it's I set up, he sets up probably 15 yards to my left. And we're sitting there, it's midday, there's nothing going on. There's a big briar patch to my, I'm sitting on an oak tree, big briar patch to my right. He's to my left. And it's just nothing going on. I mean, like, I'm calling, he's trying to call. It sounds like, honestly, it sounded like we were predator hunting because it sounded like something was in the woods dying. Like, it does not sound anything like turkey hunting at all.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, I look over and I see him pick up his gun, and he's pointing, like he's facing me. He picks it up, he's pointing. And, as I was always trained, like, hey, like, be still, like you're not going to scare the game off. So like, whatever he sees, just, be still. And, at the time, like I stayed still, but I didn't know that the game that he was shooting was me. And he picked up his gun and he tried to shoot first time, and there was nothing in it. And he put a shell in it, and he shot me. Shot me with 12 gauge double up buckshots. First turkey hunt ever, 13 years old, and watched my dad shoot me with 12 gauge double up buckshots.
Wow. So then that happened the first time you went turkey hunting.
Correct.
But you bounced back from it. Let's talk about that journey. I mean, because you had a decision to make. What am I going to do? I mean, this is unreal. Keep going.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm one of those guys. I've always heard over the years, if you got to be stupid, you got to be tough. So I took that moment, and I went through 3-4 months of being in a hospital. They rushed me. So he picked me up. He took me to the front of the gate where we parked at, and EMS came pick me up, and then they took me to the hospital, and then they did all of their procedures there. I died on the operating table twice, and then they brought me back. And then they transported me to Auctioner in New Orleans, so that I kind of start getting my health back together. And it was a long trial. I mean, it was a long period. I mean, there was moments where it didn't look good, and there was moments where it's like, okay, like I may not make it out of this, but I'm stubborn. I'm not. I don't have a quit in me, so I just kept pushing forward and just taking things day by day. What I could do, I did, and what I couldn't do, I just figured out ways to make it work. So after I got out of the hospital, I think it was couple weeks later, and I was like, look, I'm in love with hunting. Like, I love being outdoors. Like, I'm ready to go back. So we went coon hunting right after I got out of the hospital. Like, it was a decision of mine, because like I said, I was loving outdoors. A decision of mine. And from there, I kept pursuing the outdoors, even though I was shot and paralyzed by this incident. So now, like, my life is in a totally different, it's a totally different perspective now. Because like now I went from, walking through the woods, I can go anywhere, what I want to do. And now I have to figure out how to get to a certain place in a wheelchair. And that's one of the hardest challenges I've ever faced in my life. Because, I mean, you've been in the woods, you know how it is. Like, you have some sticks and logs, trees falling over, stuff like that. You can't really just pop a wheelie and hop over a dead tree. So, like, it became challenging. It was a very, very challenging moment. And I just had to figure out how to make it work. And, I think that in itself made me more driven towards the outdoors, because I was always faced with a challenge, and I wanted to know how to get past the next obstacle.
Yeah. Well, look back to two things I heard. One is you learn with a 410. I think that's a great way to teach people how to shoot, because you get one shot. And even when you've got 3, I like to put 2 in there to teach people, because how often do you kill a duck on the 3rd shot, or a turkey, much less? The second was the time when you were shot and how quickly you bounced back. You had a decision, and you just decided, I'm going to move forward. And it's an incredible story. I don't know, how the people that are watching, listening, how they would have reacted. Nobody knows until it happens to them. But how old are you? 31?
Yep, just turned 31. Yep.
Okay. Let's talk about it. You're very good at, you studied, and the people I know that are the great hunters, they study. They go listen to ducks in the off season to see what they really sound like. They don't sound like the hail call that you hear on Main Street in Stuttgart. Now, that's fun for a calling contest, but we know what a duck sounds like. And we've got chatter duck coming out now. We got a lot of cool stuff coming out. You have a skill set. I sound like Liam Neeson in Taken. You don't know me, but I have a particular set of skills, and I will use them, and I will find you, and I'll kill you. Let's get into that. I mean, because I got a lot of turkey hunters texting me right now going, Browne, I go in the woods, and I go out there for hours at a time, and I can't get it right. Help me.
All right, so from me leaving the hospital, I'll start back from there. So I didn't know that I could do what I can do now, but there was a moment in the hospital where I had a breathing tube down. So a bullet hit my esophagus, if you could see here. So a bullet hit my esophagus.
Oh, okay.
So a bullet hit my esophagus, and I had a breathing tube in my throat for a while, and it just got to the point to where it was itching, and I didn't like the feeling of it being in my throat. So I pulled a breathing tube out of my throat, and it altered my vocal cords. So a few years later, I went to a trade show, and it was an outdoor trade show in Louisiana. Lamar Dixon. It was a sportsman show, and this guy was trying to sell me a turkey call, and I was like, man, you don't know my history. I just rather not buy a turkey call.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, what kind of call do you use? Like, I mean, and he kind of, it was a sleigh call that he was running as like,
Yeah.
man, I can do that with my mouth. I can make that sound with my mouth. And at the time, I didn't really know that I could make that sound with my mouth. And he was like, all right, let's do it. And I'm one of those guys, like, if I say something and someone calls me out of my bluff, I'm gonna do it. So he called me out on it, and I was like, all right, let's go. So he ran a turkey call, and I mimicked it, and this is what it sounded like.
Wow. God.
That's just vocal cords. That's you.
I just saw it. I mean, that's you. That's not some. I mean, doing a turkey call that's a skill, and to get it right and to call them in. How many turkeys have you killed so far? Have you done the Grand Slam?
I have not done the Grand Slam, so I'm one of those guys that I love killing birds.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I would have to pass up a lot of birds to get to my last bird, which would be a Merriam. So that means I would have to go to South Dakota, Nebraska, Colorado, somewhere down there. And for me, the way I look at it, it's a long drive, and I got to pass up a lot of birds to get to one. So I've killed I got my Osceolas, my Rios, and my Easterns. I normally get those just about every year. And I just haven't explored going out to getting a Merriam way out in the western states. But one of these days I'll get out there and I'll get it. So maybe next year we'll see what happens.
Well, they're a beautiful bird, and then there's the ghouls down in Mexico, what have you. And I know my wife's cousin Mark went out there turkey hunting he went to actually went to Little Bighorn in which is in Montana. And he killed he killed several of them last year. This is a picture, if we can get this up here on the screen, of a Merriam's. You can see just
beautiful Merriam. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. And I think he said the thing weighed 25 pounds. It sounds like a fishing story. I caught that fish. It was that big.
No, I believe it. So I've killed some birds that were in the upper 20s. I killed a bird in Pennsylvania a couple of years ago, and I think he was like 26 pounds, just a massive bird. Yeah. It just depends on. So I'm going to show you a bird here that I killed in Tennessee. He was probably in the 20 range.
Whoa, that's a big one.
Massive bird. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So they do get up there in size. Actually, here's a Pennsylvania bird that I got. That was 26 pounds.
Good God.
So they do get up there in size. I'm from the South, so I mean 19, 19, 20 pound birds, like that's common, so like it's funny when I travel, I hunt all over. So it's funny, like I'll go south, like hunt with some buddies down south, and I'll go pick a bird up with one hand, and I'm like, man, this is a little chicken. And then I go somewhere, come back here to Tennessee and kill a bird. Like, man, like I'm struggling to pick this one up. Like, it's just it depends on, what they have as far as, feed and how, because a lot of birds, like especially here in, Tennessee, Kentucky, we have a lot of birds that are just corn fed. They sit in corn fields all day in the fields. So, they have more nutrition than, birds down south in other areas.
Yeah. What about duck hunting? Is that something you do a lot of?
So I don't do a lot of duck hunting because I get the runarounds when it comes to people wanting to do duck hunts. Like I'll do a goose hunt, but I've had more people tell me like, hey, we can't get you in a boat because of the wheelchair. Like we can't get you in a pit behind because of the chair, things like that. So I haven't really focused on duck hunting a lot. I mean, I would love to get duck hunting more, but we'll shoot geese. Like we'll go to rice fields. We'll set up lines where we're not going in a boat, not getting in and out of a boat, and we'll shoot geese. Or every once in a while we'll have some ducks that'll come into the field, or we'll sit on a pond bank or something like that, and we'll shoot ducks. But as far as like getting out in a boat and going chasing them in timber, I just haven't had any luck finding someone or finding a guide that'll go out and do that because of my situation. And it's been more aggravating than anything. So I just kind of didn't pursue it. But like I know that I can go to a field and shoot geese. So waterfowl for me, that's that's where I am. I'm in a field shooting geese, shooting ducks that comes to the field.
Can you do duck calls like you can do turkey calls? I mean,
Absolutely.
give
Absolutely.
I got a good feed call. I mean, because that's I'm sure that can change. I know there are places that are accessible for for people that are in a wheelchair for duck hunting. I think that's something we'll talk about. But I would like to hear your duck call. Hey,
Okay.
man, do a feed call. Holy cow. Wow. Wow. Then just regular old mallard hen, just the lonesome hen. Sounds like a Jamie Johnson country song.
So I trying to keep it as quiet as possible. I don't want to get kicked out of this place and just move to here, but
Okay.
let's do just a little bit of a hand.
That's that's amazing. It sounds like that's what they sound like. That is. So what other kind of hunting do you get into? The deer hunting? You done any elk hunting, bear hunting, big trophy hunting?
I do it all. I mean, I'm one of those guys where I want to find a challenge. Deer hunting for me, it's not. A lot of people are obsessed with deer hunting. Deer hunting just doesn't do it for me. I'm not one of. I'm one of those guys. I love pursuing animals. Like I love the thrill of the chase. So I think that's part of it for me. Turkey hunting is probably my favorite because I get to chase an animal. And it's kind of like it's a game of chess. It's cat and mouse.
Oh, it's incredible.
And it's a pursuit. But I deer hunt all throughout winter. We travel around, and in between the deer hunting, like I'll schedule different kind of hunts. We've done, we'll go to Texas and we'll go shoot hogs, and we'll go, I've done bear hunts. I've done elk. I've done an aoudad. I've done just a few exotic animals over the years. I've hunted a lot of animals. I think
so you go to Texas and you got the high fence, and you got a lot of those.
Some places are high, some are high fence, some are not.
Yeah.
But for certain exotics, we'll go and do a high fence. So, for instance,
I was just talking about the exotics for the high fence, like a scimitar oryx.
So you can do an oryx. And oryx, you can actually do an oryx free range in New Mexico. So you don't have to go to a high fence place to get an oryx. So I actually worked for New Mexico Wildlife Federation, and we have places out there where we can do an oryx. You just get a tag over the counter and you can go on an oryx hunt. But it's all free range. You can go out and, just like you apply for a hunting tag in any other state, you can go out and go do your scouting and go hunt for an oryx. But it's definitely challenging. You're going to do a lot of spot and stalk because, their eyesight's great. They're going to be, on alert all the time. So, it's going to be something that's definitely going to be challenging. But you can go hunt those in New Mexico for sure. You don't have to go to Texas and you don't have to go to Texas and hunt them in a high fence. And I know a lot of people don't really care for high fence hunting. For each their own. But for certain animals that aren't native here, you have to go to places like Texas that have high fence hunts. Like, for example, this aoudad. So let's see if it showed up. We were in Texas, New Mexico area, and it was all free range. And that hunt was very fun. It was also challenging. The aoudad, that group up, and sometimes we'll have a group in aoudad of 30 aoudad in a group, and then some will have like 60, 70, 80 aoudad in a group. And then you have to go and pick out which aoudad you want, which mature aoudad is in the group, and then we kind of make a plan from there to stalk. But you're hunting with hundreds of eyes on you at the same time, so it makes it a little harder. There's nothing to hide behind. It's open country. They're on mountains, they're on rocks. So, for someone in a chair to go and hunt an aoudad, it's definitely a challenge. But it is possible. I just showed you a picture of it, so it's definitely challenging, but it is possible to do.
Aoudad, talk about them. What are they? An antelope?
No, an aoudad is just a big ram. It's just a big goat. I know a lot of people are, they go for the big ram species. The aoudad is a ram species. Yeah. And I don't think they're native to Texas. I think they were imported here years ago, and the population just grew. But they are definitely in the southwestern states. I know they're in Texas. They're pretty heavily in Texas, and I know they're in New Mexico for sure. I'm not sure what other states they're in right now, but they are, the free range aoudad. They're everywhere, but they're also tough to hunt. That aoudad there, I mean, I was hunting with a 308, and he took, 3 shots of the 308 like a champ. So, I mean, they're tough to hunt, but, it's definitely an animal that's worth hunting.
I got my friend Jay Evers listening right now down in Birmingham from Dadeville, Alabama, and he is a hardcore hunter. He goes out to British Columbia sometimes, and literally the guide will say, dude, you're on your own from here. I'm not going up that high. And he's got the pictures to prove it. Yeah. He's got him giving a hug to a cougar out in Utah. Thing weighed about in a cougar when he shot one out in Utah. Yeah. And the dogs had it backed up on a ledge, about 1,000-foot straight drop. And have you ever shot a cougar?
No, but it is on my bucket list.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're in the South. There's no question they are.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Yeah. Where we hunt pheasants in South Dakota in Chamberlain on the Missouri River, on Lewis and Clark Trail, the ranchers will tell you they're coming out of the Black Hills. They follow the white deer population. So just got a couple of minutes to go. Damn, we're going to have to get you back on. Hunting and fishing, to me, Ted Nugent got it right years ago. Take your kids hunting and fishing so you don't have to go hunting for your kids.
Absolutely.
My kids all grew up, with it. Hallie Wilson and Max, they grew up with it, and just all the time, to the point where, they were the last ones with us to leave Sunday afternoon from the duck club. They would help Mr. Tom or whoever clean, Neil, whoever. There's a lot that goes into the preparation part of it. But what's your message? I know you speak to a lot of people. They might be thinking, my life sucks. I don't have a bad job, or, I don't like where I live or whatever. Hearing your story, and again, I would treat you just like anybody else. You've been through hell and you didn't quit. And you fought your ass back. You're exactly what we need more of, focused on in America. But what's your message to people?
You know what? I wake up every morning. I was like, well, if I have the opportunity to wake up, God's not done with me yet. The story's not over. It's not done. So you have more work to do. Like, you have a purpose. Everybody has a purpose in life. And once you figure out what your purpose is, just go all in on it and just dive into it. I struggled with learning what my purpose was over the years. And, over time, I learned that, hey, it's helping other people. Like, it's motivating people, getting people out in the outdoors. And, like, I use the message from, my incident to, help other people be safer in outdoors, get back into the outdoors and enjoy the outdoors. But, my message to other people is life goes on. Sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's bad. But as long as you can, wake up and have another day, just push forward and make the best out of it. Everything happens for a reason. And, things, even though you think things are bad, it's only momentarily. Like, something can happen and it's only for the moment. The next moment you can make it the best moment of your life. And you could sit there and suffer in something that, you've had, in the past that's to hurt you or whatever like that. So just keep pushing forward and make the best out of every moment that you have.
And I totally agree with what you're saying. And, as far as accessibility to hunting and fishing, I know, like, there's a place up on the White River in Arkansas that and it's complete, wheelchair accessible. Okay. And Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, I know, does a lot. And I'm sure Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency, TWRA, have you checked into that? I mean, because you need to be out there duck hunting. I mean, you can call ducks like that. That's an unbelievable story.
Yeah, no. So I'll get to some duck hunting this fall. I have a good relationship with TWRA, so I'll get to do some duck hunting this fall. I have some guys that are out in Arkansas. I have some guys, some duck hunter guys in Kentucky that I'll get to go out and hunt with as well. So I have access to some guys that have duck hunting property. But like I said, over the years, it just wasn't something that I was really truly focused on. Whitetail, I'm not gonna lie, in the industry that I'm in, whitetail pays the bills. So
yeah,
that's
okay.
what I focused on.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna ask you about. Like, you have sponsors and all that are backing you.
I did. So last year I had a really bad episode. I had a doctor do a surgical. So when I was shot, I still have a bullet fragment in my left shoulder. Yeah. Last summer, it pushed into a nerve in my arm and made my arm go paralyzed. So I went to the hospital and the doctor did surgery and he completely screwed up my back. So I had a almost a full year off. I'm still in recovery now, where I couldn't use both of my arms. Like he messed up my back so bad where I had to go to rehab. I think I spent 6 to 7 months in rehab trying to figure out, where my life is going to go. Because I know how to operate without, the use of my legs, but like with surgery, I didn't know how to really operate with no legs and no arms. So I kind of lost all of the sponsors because of that situation. But it was a mutual understanding. Like, hey, like I can't perform, for you guys. I can't, work. I don't even know like where, my life's going to be here in the next couple months. So I lost all those sponsors. I still have relationships with them, but I'm regaining, I'm rebuilding everything that I lost, just trying to come back and have one hell of a comeback story. And like I said, I want to focus on, being more active and doing better things and, just having one hell of a comeback story this year.
Well, glad to hear that. How do people reach out to you and contact you and connect with you?
Yeah. So my social media is Son of the South, SON of the South. And my website is www.sonofthesouth.co.co. And you can reach me on Facebook or Instagram. Those are my two major platforms. But if you just type in Josh Carney or Son of the South, something's going to pop up. It's going to link directly to me.
All right, we'll get you back on here. Incredible story. Love what you're doing. And just I can tell from where you've been, what happened this past year, that's just a pothole in the road of life. You got this thing licked, man. I mean, you'll do it.
I'm too stubborn to quit. I think that's my greatest part. I'm too stubborn to quit.
Well, we need more of you. Hey, thank you so much. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Be right back with Gary Harris down in Tuscaloosa, Tide 100.9. That is Josh Carney, folks. Get out hunting and fishing, man. You've got no reason not to. Enjoy it. We got the greatest resources in the world, and we'll be right back with more.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back here with you. Man, great morning going. We're going to bring Gary Harris on in just a moment. It is Thursday, September 7th. We are broadcasting live from Orange Beach, Alabama, down here at Bella Luna, looking out over Wolf Bay. It's absolutely gorgeous. And we got Gary Harris, Mr. Sunshine, proud product of Claiborne County, Alabama. Up there, WVUA TV 23. Tide 100.9 does a great show, folks, Tuesday nights. Check it out, Tider Insider TV. It is rich, deep Crimson Tide content. You need to be watching it. Nobody does it better than the locals. Gary, there's a game this weekend. I know the eyes of the nation are on it. Weber State and Southeast Idaho. No, Texas and Alabama. You ready for it?
Yeah, but before we get to that big game, how did you get this gig down at the beach this weekend? Auburn goes to California, so you said, heck, man, I'll go down to the beach and broadcast.
Well, we were going to take the bus, but it would take 2 months to get there with 1,000 stops. No, I wish I was going out there. I was down there with Dr. Waller May and Guy May and Joe May, a bunch of the Mays, for the Auburn game last weekend. But we're playing at Cal. I would love to go out there. I think it would be fun. But, man, I'm getting so much this Texas-Alabama game, there are a lot of big games this weekend. This is going to be fun. I mean, they're coming to town, and you were right all along about Jalen Milroe and this team. What did we say about Kevin Steele? The guy can coach. Defense looked better. They were flying all over the place. But you've forgotten more than I know, Gary. Let's go.
Well, I mean, start with Milroe. I think that, and I was on another show this morning already before I did your show. And he asked me, the host asked me, he said, well, I guess all the negativity around Jalen Milroe has gone away. And I said, not really.
Yeah.
In this world that we live in now, even if somebody pulls for a team, they almost rather be proven right than to see their team, do well and win. So, but Milroe played really well in the game. That's the only game that he's got to base, we can base anything on, and he came through with flying colors. I mean, he didn't throw any interceptions. He didn't have any fumbles. He threw for 3 touchdowns. He ran for 2. He becomes the first Alabama quarterback to throw for 3 and run for 2 in the same game. And he played, a little more than 2.5 quarters. So he came through. You mentioned the defense. I was excited about their decisiveness that they played with. You could tell the plan was not too complex, and it was go from point A to point B, get there in a hurry, and do some damage when you get there. I was real impressed with the blitz package. They didn't blitz a lot, but when they did, it was a straight line to the quarterback. There was none of this. They weren't playing games or stunning or anything like that, running around in circles, pulling up with your hands up in the air 3 feet from the quarterback. It was straight line, let's get there. So one game is all you can base it on, but I do have a lot of respect for Middle Tennessee. I think they're a good team, in their conference and well coached. And for Alabama to beat them 56-7 was a good start to the season. But clearly, everything's ratcheted up now. You get a team that's going to come in here feeling like they let one get away last year. Texas felt like they should have won that game out there. It was brutally hot. Their fans were just, incredibly loud. And I've, been told by even Texas people that was as good a crowd as they've ever seen for a Texas home game. And Alabama got out of there with Bryce Young. So Texas feels like we're better this year. We should be able to go in there and win the game. But Alabama's at home. And, Saban's hasn't lost a non-conference home game since that Louisiana Monroe shocker in 2007, his first year. That's 16 years without a home loss to a non-conference team. Whether they've been a good team or a bad team or anywhere in between, he's beat them all. And hasn't lost many, as you know, in the SEC either. So you're at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's going to be a different environment for Texas, and as good a game as I think it's going to be, and I do think it's going to be a competitive game. I'm going to pick Alabama, Rob, and, until Nick Saban proves me otherwise, if you've got an Alabama team playing at home at Bryant-Denny Stadium on a Saturday night, I'm going to pick them probably against anybody. So, including Texas. I mean, that's just, I think for you to pick against Alabama at home, you better have, Joe Burrow did it. Johnny Manziel did it. Cam Newton did it. It takes some special quarterbacks or some, and Chad Kelly at Ole Miss the night that they won here. He had a big game, and they also had some unbelievably weird plays that went their way. You very rarely do you come into Tuscaloosa and win, and very rarely you come in and just and do it unless you got a special quarterback or you got a really, really good team. And I know Texas feels like they've got a special quarterback in yours, and they feel like they've got a really, really good team, but I'm still picking the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a betting man and you have these odds, if you've picked Alabama since Nick Saban's been there, we've won 186 games and lost 33, I think. It was pretty damn good. I mean, people would be going with you, because if you can do better than 60% as a bookie, as an odds maker, that's pretty good. I'm with you. This is my question about Texas. I watched them play against Rice. Gary, you've watched a lot of football like I have. It matters how you play in your first game. It doesn't matter who you play. Rick Stockstill is the second most tenured football coach in America at Middle Tennessee. He's always got a good squad, but they dominated. But what I thought was impressive was the defense for Alabama. Texas doesn't know what's about to hit them. Were you impressed?
Yeah, I was impressed. As I said earlier, I think that the defense looked like you hoped that they would look. And I still think up front on the interior defensive line that they can play better. But I thought the edge guys got after the quarterback. I thought the linebacker play. I thought Deontay Lawson was a beast. And that secondary played terrific. And everything that we had heard and been told about Caleb Downs, a true freshman, out of Georgia was true. I mean, he was a grown man in his first game. So, yeah, I liked what I saw from the defense. As I said earlier, Rob, I think Kevin Steele, as you alluded to, I mean, not his first rodeo, his second rodeo, or his third rodeo. I mean, he's been in a lot of rodeos. He's been around the block and then some. And I think he got in here and he just felt like, you know what, we don't need paralysis by analysis. We don't need to do too much. We got good athletes. We got good players. Let's simplify to some degree. Let's get our players on the field. And if we're, I heard some last year where so-and-so couldn't get on the field because he couldn't understand the scheme. And I think Steele's philosophy is if the scheme's too complicated to get your best players on the field, then maybe you need to simplify the scheme because it's more about players, and they played a lot of guys on defense. And like I said, everybody looked good. They gave up one touchdown, and that was on a play on a 3rd down and goal from like the 9. And they had the Earl Little in there, redshirt freshman, who's going to be really, really good. But he either guarded the wrong man or he took a wrong angle. Still, the kid caught the ball at the 2 or 3 yard line. If Little's able to tackle him, they have to go for it on 4th down. Maybe they make it, maybe they don't. But like I said, 2 turnovers, got an interception, forced a fumble, and didn't give up the chunk plays. And I was very excited about the defense. And now, of course, anticipating what they do Saturday night against. I think you could argue that Texas wide receiving group with Worthy and Mitchell and those guys is probably, I think Ohio State probably has the best with Marvin Harrison Jr. and his buddies. But I would say Texas right now is probably the 2nd best receiving corps in the country. And then you got Ewers, a guy who can get him the ball. So it's going to be a big test.
What about Quinn Ewers as a quarterback? Who would you compare him to that Alabama's played in the last couple of years?
Oh boy, it's a good question. I mean, I'm having to, and I'm not putting him at this level because we know the guy I'm about to mention is special. But physically, he reminds me a little bit of Joe Burrow. He's athletic enough. He's got a really good touch on the ball. He can throw it with accuracy. And again, I'm not saying he's at that level, but you asked me who he reminds me of. And I just physically, they're about the same size. As I said, he's big enough that, if you hit him and you don't wrap him up, he can get out of some arm tackles. He can do some things with his legs, and he sees the field. He's cool, calm, and collected back there, which Burrow was as cool under pressure as anybody I've ever seen, and had that ability to, step to the side of a rusher and so forth like that. So I guess just kind of thinking back through the last 2 or 3 years, from a physical standpoint, he reminds me of Burrow a little bit. I can't think of anybody else that really jumps out, but I think he's got all the tools. I think he's got great ability, and he's not at that level of Joe Burrow, but I do think he's a really good quarterback.
It's interesting. Murphy, is it Dexter Murphy? The backup is a beast. He's like 6'5", 260. They had him playing some against Rice. But Ewers is a really good one. He went to Ohio State, got that big NIL deal, but he's a stud. Talk about Jalen Milroe. I mean, he almost went to Texas. This guy is a big-time recruit. And, again, you local guys, you see him every day. I mean, you're there. You can't – and, again, it's not bashing the national guys, the flyover. But when you got boots on the ground like you and Rodney both kept saying it's going to be Jalen Milroe. This guy, what is he, 6'3", 225? I mean, what do you compare him to? And he made good decisions, and he didn't put Alabama in positions to fail. What more do you want out of a quarterback?
Well, like I said, he passed the first test with flying colors. There's no doubt about it. He is big, strong, physical. I mean, he's a specimen. I mean, when you watch him in warm-ups, Rob, he's as good a looking a kid as anybody on the field. I'm not about just in terms of quarterbacks. I mean, he is put together. He is a grown man. And Sark, interestingly enough, helped recruit him to Alabama. When he was here with Saban. So he definitely knows all about Jalen Milroe. I like him. I've liked him from the time I watched him last year. Again, a lot of times people see what they want to see, and I don't mean that negatively. It's just the people that had, for whatever reason, they don't think Milroe's the guy. They're going to see the glass half empty. Instead of seeing it half full. Whatever couple of mistakes. I mean, I've had a couple people this week tell me, well, he didn't throw the intermediate ball well, and he didn't do this, and he didn't do that. I mean, they were finding things, to nitpick about. Now, again, he didn't play Texas Saturday night. He played Middle Tennessee. And even though they're a good team, He's going up a level, and this is going to be another. I do agree. I have no problem with people saying, "Well, I want to gauge him on how he plays against Texas." That's fine, but you also have to gauge him on how he played against Middle Tennessee, and you can't undo what he did, and you can't discredit it. You play who you play, and he's had one game to play in. And all the stuff from last year, I got a little irritated with that. Well, he just turns the ball over and he can't make the throws. And he started one game, and he came in against Arkansas and played 2.5 quarters. Outside of that, he was strictly a backup coming in mop-up time. So you can make all these evaluations based on what he did last year in 1.5 games, but you don't want to make any evaluations on how he's improved and how he played against Middle Tennessee. I don't understand that logic. He's better now than he was then. And he is prepared to be the starter. And I think he's going to play well on Saturday night. Is he going to play perfect? No. Are there things he needs to work on? Yes. I think he can make all the throws in the route tree. He's got a big arm. He put great touch on those deep balls last week. But going through his progressions, going to secondary receivers, handling the pressure, all those things, I'll be interested to see how he plays. And I do think that they want to get the ball out of his hand and not have him standing back there for too long. But another thing that he has, and we saw it on the bad snap, is he's got ability on when those plays go off script to kill you. I mean, he's just he took a ball. That snap by McLaughlin was terrible. That should have been a 10, 12, 15-yard loss. He turns it into a touchdown. So he's a dynamic athlete.
Let's talk about the Alabama wide receivers. That iconic photo of Jalen Waddle out of Bellevue, Texas, Jerry Jeudy out of Deerfield Beach, Florida, I think Henry Ruggs III out of Montgomery, and Devontae Smith out of Amite, Louisiana. That will go down like 52 backfield in Oklahoma history. Are there any receivers in this core, and you know them, like that?
No.
Thank you. Next.
I mean, not right now. I mean, like you said, that you could argue that's as good a 4 wide receivers that's ever been on a single team. I mean, you're talking about 4 first rounders. You're talking about all of them playing at a high level. Henry Ruggs would be playing at a high level had it not, had he not made a terrible mistake that he's having to pay for. But so no. Are there some good receivers? Yes. Are there guys maybe that have the potential that maybe next year at this time we're speaking to them like a Waddle or a Jeudy or a Smith or a Ruggs? Possibly, but not right now. I mean, Jermaine Burton's quick. Jermaine Burton runs good routes. Jermaine Burton's good. I think Isaiah Bond is electric when he gets the ball in his hands. But Burton's not Devontae Smith, and Isaiah Bond is not Jalen Waddle. And, these guys, they aren't those guys, and they're good. And, same thing really on the defensive line. They've got a good defensive line. I don't see Quinnen Williams out there, though. I don't see Deron Payne. I don't see Jonathan Allen. So I think this is a really good Alabama team. Yeah. But they went through a run here with talent at every position. It was just unbelievable, Now, in the secondary, I look at McKinstry, and is he Surtain? Maybe not quite that level, but he's really good. And I see Caleb Downs, and I think he is a Minkah Fitzpatrick. He is an Eddie Jackson. He is that kind of player. But at the wide receiving group, no, I don't think they're on the same level as those guys.
That's pretty lofty for Alabama. The standard the last 17 years and throughout their history, they've always had great players. But boy, Minkah Fitzpatrick, I think he was from New Jersey, but I think he had family over in Union Springs, Alabama. That was the connection that they had there. But Gary, Alabama, what gets me is the number of just living brain donors that are out there, willing accomplices, useful idiots, whatever you want to call them. The dynasty is in trouble. I mean, Nick Saban is not an old guy. He's 71 years old, sharp as a tack. He's a regular celebrant at Mass. He's got a lot going on. I think he's gone back to square one and gotten more involved versus maybe delegating a lot of things. And I think he's got a team. I talked to a veteran football coach who was coached against him for a long time, and he said, let me tell you something. Nick Saban has gone out and got him an offensive line of, as he put it, full-grown men, and he's got him a team that everybody else in college football is going this way. and he's going this way. And now you watch what everybody does. He said, but he's got him a team this year that's capable of winning the whole damn thing. 15, 16, 17. You and Rodney talked about that. I got to give you credit. All summer long, all summer long, y'all were talking about that, not going with the popular group think of this is it. They're in trouble. They don't have a quarterback, whatever. That's why I emphasize eat local, read local, listen local, and watch local.
Well, I just look at rosters. I mean, and I sat there and told you the wide receiving core is not on the level that that special group was, but who is? I mean, maybe Ohio State this year, maybe every now and then you get it. But the bottom line is when I look at roster construction, I still don't see, to me, that's where it starts. And that doesn't mean that you won't get a team in last year like you had with TCU, who maybe not had recruited at the same level that Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State and those teams, Michigan, recruit at. But, when I'm looking across the country, and I don't know that Alabama's going to make the playoff. They didn't make it last year. But I have a hard time finding 4 rosters that are better than Alabama's. So you're taking 4 playoff teams. For me, of course, Alabama's a playoff contender. I mean, when it's ludicrous to say that they're not. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to get there. Everybody has to prove it and do it. But to sit there and say that there are, maybe Georgia, maybe Ohio State, I don't know. But there aren't many rosters that are deeper and better than Alabama's. So that's where it all starts, is with players. And to me, to sit there and say the dynasty's dead would indicate, well, they don't have good players anymore. Yeah. They've slipped to the point now where you can see a huge difference. And as I said earlier, maybe there are some subtle differences, but there's still some really good players on this team, and it's really talented and it's really deep, and it's a playoff contender. Now you got to go earn it, and you got to do it on the field. But Alabama's absolutely a playoff contender, and what he's done here, again, I've talked about it, and I got to go go a little quicker this morning, Rob. Okay. I got some things I need to do before my show, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. But Georgia's going for 3 in a row. You could make an argument that Saban could have won 6 or 7 in a row. I mean, they're hard to win. I mean, he got kicked 6th in 13. Or I think they would have beaten Florida State that year. 14, they got knocked out in the first ever college football playoff by Ohio State. Yeah. They won it in 15. 16, they got beat by Deshaun Watson, in the final, literally almost the final play of the game. Yeah, and then they won it in 17. They got beat by Clemson again in 18. And won it in 20, played for it in 21. I mean, when you've never gone more than 3 years in your tenure without winning a national championship, and that's what it is with Nick Saban. That's why this is a big year. It's the 3rd year. Think about that. You got Georgia went 41 years. Auburn went, 53 years. Yeah. Schools go 20, 30, 40, 50 years. This guy hadn't gone more than 3. Yeah. And the dynasty's it's just unreal. Maybe if he doesn't win it this year, you can say, well, he's never gone, he's in his 4th year without a national championship. Maybe you can start nitpicking a little bit, but to sit there and say the dynasty's dead is just ridiculous to me. Hey, thank you, Rob. Yeah. Hey, look, great stuff, Gary Harris. Always look forward to having you on next week. Appreciate it, man. All right, let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you, broadcast. We are live today. We are actually live today. Make sure you know that, because there was something sent out. It may have confused you. But Gary Harris, Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. Great takes on the Alabama gets ready to play Texas this Saturday at Bryant-Denny Stadium. I think Alabama in this game, Jalen Milroe, again, last year he started against Texas A&M. A&M wasn't a great team last year, but he did get the win. And that game went down literally to the last play. Steve Sarkisian, the coach at Texas, as Gary referred to, was involved in the recruitment of Jalen Milroe, who was a Texas high school kid, to Alabama. He knows him. He knows his tendencies. He knows what this kid's all about. And he's a hell of a quarterback. Don't underestimate Jalen Milroe. He's 6'3", about 228. He can run. He can throw. But he's coached in that Nick Saban system to not put his team in a position to fail. I think that's critical to remember when you're watching. Look, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is at Alabama. And we all know they've had an incredible run starting back in 2016 with Jalen Hurts, and then Tua Tagovailoa, and then Mac Jones, and then Bryce Young. And Bryce Young will go down as the greatest Alabama player in history to not win a national championship. But he was the number one pick in the draft to the Carolina Panthers. So you just sit there and you look and you say, Nick Saban, when people say the dynasty is in peril, look, face the fact. When you coach as long and have the success that Nick Saban has had at Alabama, you're going to produce a lot of really good coaches. Not all of them, if any of them, will ever equal you, but some will, catch on. Will Muschamp is he's a great defensive coordinator. Didn't have great success as a head coach at Florida or South Carolina, but he's a great coach, great guy from all accounts, from everybody that knows him, an incredible recruiter, and he's having a great time over at Georgia. He and Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart putting those defenses together. You look at the assistant coaches. Kirby, he had Sam Pittman on that staff, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Sam Pittman built the Great Red Wall at Georgia. Great recruiter. Now he's at Arkansas. Look at the staff. If you want to buy a deep discount value stock for the long term, buy the University of Arkansas Razorbacks. And I say that because they're building this program brick by brick. As Dudley Dawson said yesterday, hogville.net, on the Chad House, ECS House Industries Razorback Report, one brick at a time. Last year, Dudley said the roster 1 through 44 is SEC caliber. It's 45 through 85 that's such a big deal. Now, he's identified up to 60 players he feels like could start at any time for the Razorbacks. Sam Pittman, keep your eye on what he's doing. We know Texas A&M has ungodly amounts of talent. We know Georgia does. If you look at the blue chip index, it's like number 1 is Georgia, 2 is Bama, 3 is Ohio State. And that is the number of 4- and 5-star players that you have on your roster that you sign over a 4-year period. And over 80% of the rosters of Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State are 4- and 5-star players. So that talent matters. But how about that statistic from Monday night's game? Duke 27, Clemson 6 at Wallace Wade Stadium in Durham, North Carolina, home of Duke University, the University of New Jersey at Durham, they call it. 56 4-star or 5-star players on that Clemson roster. You know how many 4- and 5-star players were on the Duke roster? 2. And they dominated Clemson. I know Dabo doesn't embrace the transfer portal. He doesn't like NIL. I don't either. But they're necessary evils, okay? And what you learn in life is you've got to have the discipline to do the things that you don't want to do. I want guys to stick it out and tough it out and grind it out and not quit. But Dabo at Clemson, they've got everything in the world going for them. Back in 2017, when they built the, Clemson football-only complex, it was the standard for America. Now you've seen the Starship Enterprise. They opened with a $91 million project at Auburn. And in all fairness, that $91 million price tag was due to the fact that Auburn took a month of Sundays, 4 or 5 years to make a decision on when to start the thing. And then January of 2020, the price of building materials tripled and quadrupled. It cost a lot more. Why you got to do it when you can. But anyway, Coach Matt Dean, Rhodes College in Memphis, is on with us right now. John Hartwell will be joining us from Monroe, Louisiana, here momentarily. And Coach, man, we've been talking college football. We had Gary Harris on talking about that Texas-Alabama game. Let's get a little take on the Pac-12. And boy, Franz Beard knocked it out of the park. Said you look at 556 national championships over 108 years, and Larry Scott, George Kliavkoff, in 10 months' time, sunk a tradition, the Conference of Champions, as Bill Walton called them. But you've got 8 quarterbacks that people are saying are all going to be future NFL quarterbacks starting in the Pac-12. They've got a bunch of really good teams. And after this year, it's all going away because of mismanagement. The presidents were putting academics, which is obviously important, but they forgot the sports component of it. They didn't know how to do it, and they blew it.
Good morning, Rob. It's amazing that right now, arguably behind the SEC, the Pac-12 is the best football conference in America for this year. What you described is totally accurate. You add into it what Colorado did on Saturday was incredible, to go to Fort Worth and beat TCU with over 80 roster changes from the year prior, right? I think Oregon State is a team that we don't talk about enough. They won 10 football games last year. They took care of business against San Jose State in probably a more impressive fashion than 2 weeks prior than USC did. I mean, Oregon State went on the road to San Jose and totally dominated that game. I'm really shocked that this happened. And we want to talk about 10 months. This has been built
years. It was years.
Right?
Yeah.
So when USC and UCLA left, essentially at that point, a lot of us weren't sure if it was sustainable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then obviously when Oregon and Washington went to the Big Ten, it was over. And then all of a sudden we had everyone just Katie bar the door. So what a failed leadership situation to a remarkable, what'd you say, 556
national championships.
That's amazing, Rob. That's
it is
unbelievable that a conference that has that history is gone.
Yeah. Let me read some of what Franz said yesterday, and I'm going to bring John Hartwell on, AD at ULM. This is just wrapping up just some stuff. Franz Beard of GatorbackMedia.com, his daily thoughts. It's incredible. This is some of the best writing Franz has ever done. 6 Pac-12 teams are ranked right now. And if you go by conference, you won't find one with more future NFL quarterbacks. Yeah. One of which, Southern Cal's Caleb Williams, could become the first back-to-back Heisman Trophy winner, obviously since Archie Griffin did it in the 70s. At some point in the future, you'll be watching Williams, Michael Penix at Washington, Cam Ward, Washington State, Bo Nix, Oregon, DJ at Oregon, DJ at Oregon. Scott, I rehearse it. DJ Ugly Lalela, whatever, at Oregon State. Jake Plummer at California. Jaden DeLaura, Arizona. Cam Rising, Utah. Shadur Sanders, Colorado, playing on Sundays. This doesn't include stud freshman Dante Moore at UCLA, Jaden Rashada at Arizona State. This should be the greatest season the Pac-12 has had since the days when Pete Carroll was running the show at Southern Cal. But instead, it's the swan song because the league presidents proved exactly why academics should leave the business of athletics to business people. Scott and Kliavkoff redefined ineptitude, so it's easy to point fingers at them. In reality, they are nothing but worthless accessories. The people who deserve to have fingers pointed at and lawsuits filed against them are the presidents of the 12 schools in the Pac-12 that voted to bring them in as commissioners. Wow. Powerful stuff by Franz Beard. And a comment from one of our listeners, Artemis Pyle, very good point. Things change. If you don't change with them, you will fall behind. Artemis Pyle is right. John Hartwell, jump in here with us.
Yeah, Rob, the one thing that gets lost in all of this, and depending on which league you're looking at, there's always been conversation about the turnover rate of athletic directors.
Yeah.
But in recent years, the turnover rate of university presidents and chancellors, in some cases, has accelerated to a shorter length of tenure than that of the athletic directors. So again, you've got transition where much like people say, well, hey, there's not affinity to individual programs because of NIL or the transfer portal with student athletes leaving. You've got the same thing on the presidential front, and I think that contributes to that. And whether it's a president taking a job for a short term, looking at the next gig. And I'm not saying that's across the board, but that is happening. And presidents taking their first, in some cases, because this is not important on the academic side. If you have a president who is hired because of their academic achievements, and very rightly so, I mean, that's their primary function.
Yeah.
But they may have never been at an FBS institution before, or even an institution that has football, and all of a sudden they're popping in to be the president of XYZ university that's a Power 5 institution, and their vote matters in terms of the future of that league, and they have no clue about college athletics really in general, much less FBS football.
Yeah, and you look, Matt, you've had to deal with university presidents as an AD and as a coach. It's not, hey, let's attack presidents, but you've got to have people that, again, both of y'all are very smart people. You know how to relate to people. There are some academic types that, went to the Joseph Stalin School of Charm and Wit. What's your experience been like, Matt, when you go and plead with the president for a particular project or whatnot? Because I don't know if y'all read that in-depth story. I read it about Jimbo Fisher's trials and tribulations at Florida State, everything that he went through before he finally just left in tears. Well, not for long with that $75 million deal at A&M, but I know he went through a lot trying to get facilities upgrades at Florida State, but there's a constant battle going on. But I would think, if I'm the president, I'm like, look, if it's good for the university, I'll sign off on it.
As always, John raises a very great point. And congratulations on your big football win last week, John. I was going to text you, but I figured it would get buried in all the other congratulations.
Yeah,
but
17-13. It was a good
that's
one.
Awesome. What happens, and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like my experience as an AD is, let's say 3 days before there's a big vote by the presidents on anything athletic related, I would get some FaceTime with our president. We would go over every item, and then we would kind of work together and try to coach them up on the situation, right? And even in those situations, sometimes she could get swayed in that room with other presidents. And we'd come back and I'd be like, why did we go this way? Well, so-and-so said a really good point, so I went with him, right? And I'm like, well, we were kind of steadfast on this. This was what was best for us and the entire conference. So it's totally college presidents. They make the decisions on the commissioner hire. And a lot of times my experience is all it takes is one person in that room to know somebody who knows somebody and say, oh, this person's a really good person. We should hire that person as our commissioner. And it goes that way. And then the business model is not thrown out. And that's why the better conferences, besides conference leadership, also have presidents that have an idea of athletic acumen. That's my guess, John.
Yeah, that's really spot on there, Matt. And I think, again, if you have an inexperienced president who gets in a room of their peers, they may have had a conversation with their athletic director, but, when the rubber meets the road and that vote given, and it's not a secret ballot. It's a raise your hand. They may look around that room and be intimidated or influenced by someone else. And, I don't know if it was really supposed to go public, but clearly it got public. That what swung the gate, if you will, in the ACC was the vote of North Carolina State. I mean, North Carolina State had said, no, we don't want to add these folks. And then for whatever reason, they changed their mind.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you had Clemson and Florida State and North Carolina sitting out there on an island. And instead of 8-4 and 4 against, it went 9-3, and the rest is history in terms of new addition to the ACC. So that's really an important point that I don't think a whole lot of people, realize.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, Tommy Kane, who covers ACC for us, along with Richmond Weaver, and Tommy was long time on the ACC network with ACC Road Trip, played basketball at NC State. He didn't want Stanford and Cal and SMU. He said, we're talking the whole country. And again, I look at this, all this expansion, it ain't over. We had Dr. Bill Hardgrave, president of the University of Memphis, on the show Tuesday morning with us. And he said they took a tour and went around and they talked to the schools and said, what is it about us that is keeping us out? And they said there were 3 things, and they listened to him, and he brought him up on the show. But you gotta listen. And Matt and John, both of y'all know there's a lot of meetings that go on with the people, the fundraising, the coaches, and everything like that. ACC, they're going to have, this is what they got now. SMU wanted it so bad, they're going to go 7 or 8 years without getting the ACC revenue share. That's pretty hardcore.
Actually, for SMU, I think we talked a little bit about it last week. That's what having a really strong endowment. And,
yes.
Endowments in athletics are not unusual. Obviously, Notre Dame, Stanford, some others have very strong endowments, but there's some, in the FBS level and Power 5 level that don't have that significant of endowments. But when you've got that money socked away and you can have a few rainy days because all of your athletic scholarships and all of your head coaches positions are fully funded on an annual basis through the interest all and dividends off of the endowments, makes it a little easier when you don't have to cover that nut from an operating standpoint on an annual basis.
Matt, I want to ask you, on the revenue side, on the business side, you got an endowment, a small school like Rhodes College, 1,950 students or so, around $400 million for an endowment. How much of that money is used versus how much of it is it just there growing for a rainy day account?
It's a combination of both. Okay. I mean, we are, even though we have a very healthy endowment, the liquid side of that is probably 25-30%, John, I'm guessing. I don't know. And, you look at when we don't meet our class, sometimes to balance the budget, we have to dip into the endowment. And that's never a good thing. Like last year, we were 35 short. Well, our NTR average is about 23,000. So that's $750,000. And people don't understand that even though you may have a healthy endowment, you are still driven operationally year to year on annual fund giving and also your enrollment at a place like Rhodes College. And when a loaf of bread is $4.99, as my wife reminded me the other day, people aren't as philanthropic as they've been in the past. So it's really tough right now. And that's why relationships matter. You have to hold on to those dollars that you've built over time. And you've got to really be careful when you're a fundraiser, especially someone new going into an institution they're not familiar with, about making sure that history does matter. And these relationships do matter. And how we handle certain donors. We don't want to be completely compliant to Foghorn Leghorn, but we got to get Foghorn Leghorn on board, right? I mean, that person's got to be on board to make sure they continue their annual giving.
Yeah. I'm looking out the window here, guys, over Wolf Bay here. John, we're at Orange Beach, Alabama, looking out over Ono Island, and directly across here, about 100 about 100 yards across is Richard Scrushy's place there on Ono Island. And wasn't occupied for a while, but I think he's back. But let me say, I can tell you in 32 plus years in growing as a financial advisor, one rule that it stands firm, and that is wealthy people don't like touching principal. And you just referred to it, Matt, about touching the endowment. You love to know it's there.
That's right.
And I know I've had older clients that can't sleep at night unless they have a couple $100,000 in their checking account. And they're clipping coupons and sweating bullets, about every penny, but that's why they got that money. John, both of y'all are very, very smart. Your background in accounting, Citadel graduate. When you came to ULM, University of Louisiana Monroe, you'd been at Utah State 7.5 years. And I know how much, you and your wife love the winters out there. And my son, Max, yesterday called us. He'd been up at Boise. He took a picture on the blue turf at Boise. Guess it was Tuesday. He was up there on his days off. And these road trips he does are just insane. But he wants to stay out west until December. And I'm like, holy cow, it gets so cold out there that even bowling isn't an option because you can't get to the bowling alley. But you're back down here at ULM. What's it been like coming in as the AD? Because you have a reputation as a badass. I mean, you're going to come in there, you're going to fix things, you're going to run a lean mean, but you're going to turn it into a operation machine with revenue coming in. What are the challenges that you're facing and how are you handling them?
Yeah, I mean, part of that, most places that you see that have struggled from a wins and losses standpoint also struggle financially. That's not across the board, but that's a pretty common theme.
Yeah.
And so part of that is, you can't take pictures of the conference championships and the national championship trophies in the trophy case in the lobby and say, hey, I need you to help us to continue this tradition. It's about selling a vision and a dream. And I think we've talked about this before too. It's just like somebody investing in the stock market. You're not the Wall Street Journal, for those that still read it in print, going eeny, miny, mo, and closing your eyes and blindly picking stocks to invest in or mutual funds to invest in. You want something that's got sound leadership. There's a vision for the future. There's a roadmap to success. That roadmap is not infallible because, history repeats itself from an economy standpoint. But there's got to be a sound plan. So that's really, the key of it. Matt mentioned our win over Army the other day, which was a huge deal for us. Yeah. Really good crowd on a national television on the NFL network. And so that's huge for us, but you can't bank on, going 11-1 in the regular season or 10-2 or even having a winning season. You've got to have, the pieces in place to sell that vision. And that's really what we're doing. And it's, I'm not the most patient person in the world. And so I have to kind of take a deep breath every now and then because I want it to happen yesterday. But, knowing when it's, a mountain that you got to move you got to move it one piece at a time. And I actually did an article that was published over the weekend, I think in Sportico. The national writer talked to me about it, hey, talk to me about the process and the mindset of taking a job that's a challenge like ULM. I said, hey, every job, all three ADs jobs I've taken have had their own challenges, and the first thing you tackle is making sure that your team has a positive attitude and a can-do and a glass half full, whatever cliche you want to use. But hey, negativity is not tolerated here. If you're going to complain about what you don't have, you need to go find someplace else to do it.
Yeah, and Matt, you have those meetings with team, and again, John, I hadn't been down to Monroe and been around your staff, but just knowing you now for over a year, no Debbie Downers allowed. Matt, what's it like with you in those meetings?
From my standpoint, though I was a longtime coach, it's just coaching a different team. now you're the head coach of the coaches, right? And so I tried to make sure that once a month I address the entire staff, but every other week I met with my head coaches, just as a group, and they could kind of, a couple things I think is really important that too sometimes gets overlooked. I want to be in there. I want to have the head football coach in there with the head tennis coach. I want everyone to know, regardless of your title, that we still are a team, right? And we want to support each other, because sometimes, you get in these silos and it's very difficult, perception-wise, to think that football gets everything, right? And for us, we want to make sure we've got a culture where everyone feels like they are supported, and our coaches, it's not uncommon for our head coaches to show up at other sports games. And I think that's a real positive thing. Also, when I meet with the staff, I want to make sure I give them as much information as I can give them from above my pay grade. And what I mean by that is there's certain things that John is privy to that he can't discuss with his staff.
Yeah.
But there are certain things that they're going to have questions on. And we try to accommodate staff members, because sometimes when you're that assistant coach in one of those meetings, you feel like I can count the totems that I'm below everyone else. And you want to make sure everyone is really supported. On the flip side, as a head coach, and I've been a head coach, different venues, we still got to make sure that we're doing our due diligence on a daily basis to promote the product. And what I mean by that is, not only are we recruiting for our team, we are recruiting for the university, the college, because I will tell you, and I believe this, and it has nothing to do with them being more important, but when football is healthy, everybody else seems to be healthier, if that makes sense. I know that, but when football's not healthy, sometimes there's people jabbing, well, why are they not successful? They get this or they get that, and just creates a really interesting dynamic. But when football is healthy, everything seems to work out. And I had a question for John, because I was watching my Iowa Hawkeyes on Saturday. And I got to tell you, John, I was really impressed with Utah State, your former employer. I thought they scrapped. It was 24-6 late. They scored a touchdown, made it 24-14, but they were in that game for 4 quarters. I was really impressed with your Aggie, your former team, the Aggies. Sorry, right? Your current team.
I got to watch just a little bit of it, and I know Iowa got out to a pretty quick 14-0 lead. I think Cooper Laga, the quarterback, threw an early interception. But I'll continue to say it. Blake Anderson does a hell of a job. Blake Anderson is an unbelievable football coach. He comes from the offensive side of the ball. He's going to be able to move the ball, but he's an even better motivator. And, they're fortunate to have him. It was, again, to go from being, near the bottom of the league the year before he got there to winning the league, an amazing turnaround. And although I'm not there, I know a bunch of that coaching staff and a bunch of those kids, and wish them the best.
Yeah. And look, guys, I want to say something. We went back about the national narrative that we've been preached by the 6 multinational corporations on 3 city blocks up in New York, that college football, it's ruining the NIL, the portal, all the negativity, the virus. We won't be able to have sports. Guess who? One of my listeners just texted this to me. He recorded this couple on a plane. They are from the national narrative that college football is dead. He recorded some of their comments.
Thank you. There's probably no more good magazines left.
Do y'all remember Doug and Wendy Weiner on Saturday Night Live? That's who that was. And it's so refreshing, because, again, I was down at Auburn last weekend, and I had friends all over the place going to games. Crowds were awesome. We had so much fun on the round table Saturday, but Dave Tompkins, who's a West Point grad, and he was going to be watching that game with ULM, and y'all got the better of it, 17-13 ULM did, but Rhodes College, D1, 2, 3, I always say this, it matters. And if you're a business owner and you live in a town with a university, you damn well ought to support them. So that's the thing. But I feel great about the future of college athletics because, we got 330 million people in this country. And we got a handful of people that try to control the narrative. So, Gandhi said it best. I will not allow other people to walk through my mind with their dirty feet. I love that quote. I believe in this country. I believe in the people. And Matt, you just talked about it. That job at Utah State against Iowa. We're talking about, ULM this weekend has Lamar, another home game. That's a fundraiser. Really what a game is. John, you won't be sitting in a box watching the game, drinking a cold road soda and eating hot dogs. You'll be shaking hands and visiting with people nonstop. What's your day like on a typical Saturday? You up at about 4:30 or 5? Kind of reminds you of being over in Charleston at the Citadel? Sands Reveille?
Yeah, I'm not the only saving grace is I'm not doing push-ups and sit-ups, at 4:30 a.m. out on the
checkerboard.
He doesn't pick you up and carry you away. But I'm up early on game day. The juices still flow, and I tell people all the time. They say, "Hey, do you still get out and do you shoot hoops or do anything?" I said, "Well, I may go out there and play horse or something." I said, "When you get my age, your mind tells you to still do it, and your body says hell no." But yeah, game day. I'm up early. As my wife says, I'm a bear, so I get out of the house pretty early. Usually, I'll maybe have breakfast with some alums who are in town, or watch Sports Center, or even better, be on Sidelines early on Saturday morning.
That's fun
for the round table, which I really enjoyed last Saturday. So, but yeah, there's a lot of activities on game day. Like this week, like you said, we play Lamar. Don't kick off until 7 p.m. But there'll be a lot going on during the day and visiting people and being on campus. And, you talk about, again, the power of college football, and regardless of whatever level you're at, if you have a home game on a Saturday, there is a buzz across campus, usually from, Friday afternoon until Sunday, midday.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you won the week before, there's anticipation. And so there's a lot going on. We've got this week, for those that don't know the geography, I'll give you a 15-second. So the city of Monroe and the city of West Monroe are divided by the Ouachita River that comes right down between. But, trying to make sure that everybody is one. We've got our one row celebration this week where we are honoring first responders and teachers in the area. That's one of the byproducts of the college football playoff, making sure that, there's a significant donation made each year back to the teachers across our great country. And so we're celebrating that this week. So again, being a friend raiser, and obviously when you're competitive and have the opportunity to win, have some success, it generates excitement. And quite frankly, and we've talked about this before, it helps the economic development of the entire area, because you're winning and you're competitive. More people come stay in your hotels, they eat in your restaurants, they shop in your shops, and it helps everybody in the area.
Yeah, it definitely does. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We got a lot of college games I want to get into in just a moment, but great insight, great take on the business angle of athletics, because if you don't get that part right, Matt and John, it ain't going to happen. So we'll be right back with more on this Thursday edition of Sidelines, live from OBA, Orange Beach, Alabama, here on Wolf Bay.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
To weekend number 2. I mean, we big one. Like, I mean, Texas is going to Alabama. I know Auburn's got to go out to Cal. But what are some of the games y'all are looking at that really get your attention? College football, again, this is the third week, but really the second big weekend. Rankings are out. Who's overhyped in y'all's opinion? Who is undervalued? And who looks like, based on what you've seen just in one or two games, like they got some real problems? I'll start with you, Matt.
Well, how could you not be intrigued by the story of Colorado? Over 80 different, new players. Obviously, we know Coach believed, but like to go into TCU and win that game, and Nebraska's coming off a 13-10 loss where they were up 10-3 late. Minnesota had a 4th and 10 inside the 10, an incredible throw and catch. They win in overtime. I'm going to stick with Colorado this week. I think Boulder is going to be rocking. I didn't know when I booked my ticket to go to Eugene, Oregon to watch the Colorado-Oregon game in September 23rd that it would be a top 25 showdown. But obviously I'm invested in the Ducks too with my family situation. And Oregon's got a tough one in Lubbock this weekend. Texas Tech was up 17-0 at Wyoming. I turned the game on, guys. They were dominating. Wyoming found a way. It's a tough place to play to win that game in overtime. And now Oregon's got to go down in that environment in a night game. But I'm curious if Colorado can keep it up. I mean, because, hey, they got some guys that performed at a high level. Nebraska is going to be coming in at 0-1. You don't want to start the season 0-2. So I think that's an interesting game for me.
John, you saw Colorado last week, and that's a program that's been asleep for a long time. First college campus where weed was legal. Maybe they're a little bit lethargic or something. But Coach Dion, personally, it's all about him and his 2 kids. I don't know if I could be around someone like that because he's on edge with everybody, but he's bringing attention. He's bringing attention. I don't know if that's the biggest story in college football, but what's your take on that?
Yeah, it really is. And he is a master motivator. And it doesn't hurt to have a highly talented son to program at quarterback too. I mean, he made some spectacular plays, and you got to, love him or hate him, you got to give him credit because what he did last week was really amazing. I tell you, I'm going to take a little different view. I'm going to say, hey, how about those programs that had the hype, the preseason hype, who you got to see if they're going to come off the deck, whether it's TCU who lost that game, whether it's Clemson, and, there's been a couple of stories come out of there, and hats off to Duke for how they handled Clemson the other day. Look at Baylor and give kudos to Texas State, fellow Sun Belt conference member.
Absolutely.
Who went to Waco and took it to the Bears. So, and you mentioned Texas Tech. So those schools, with the early hype, who didn't perform to the level a lot of people thought they would in week 1, really key. And the Alabama-Texas game, the subline, the sub stories in that Sarkisian versus Saban, that's going to be entertaining for sure as well.
Were you surprised by what happened Monday night, Clemson at Duke? When you look at the rosters of those two teams, and the score is Duke 27, Clemson 6. Cade Klubnik starting now at quarterback for Clemson, but Duke just dominated the whole game.
Yeah, that's what I was really impressed with Duke is they look like they belong in that game, and quite frankly, what I was surprised at were the lines of scrimmage, offensive and defensive lines of scrimmage. You think about the Clemson teams that were contenders and winners of CFP games through the last several years, and their offensive and defensive lines were very dominant. I did not see that the other day. A lot of credit to Coach Mike Elko and what he's done. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the foundation of that team under David Cutcliffe, prior to Elko taking over. And one of those guys from right up the road from you there, Rob, the starting quarterback from Duke is from Fairhope High School, and was a recruit by David Cutcliffe, and not that highly recruited, and so look at what he's done. He comes from quarterback country, and David Morris there, who was a backup quarterback to Eli Manning for Coach Cutcliffe at Ole Miss, and has quite the lineage of NFL quarterbacks under his tutoring. And again, this young man from Duke, who led them to victory the other night, is one of his proteges.
Well, yeah, Morris, I think, was a quarterback backup at Ole Miss, is from Mobile, because I know our mutual friend Will Johnson knows him. And I put that stat up on the screen. Clemson, I mean, it's unreal. 56 4- or 5-star players on the roster. Duke has 2. It just goes to show you what a good game plan and a great quarterback. Because that quarterback for Duke, Matt, you watched him play Monday night on the color TV. That guy can run. He can do it all. And I mean, that it doesn't mean Dabo can't coach, but Clemson in 15 and 16, they played for the national championship in 15 and lost, won it in 16. Hunter Renfro made a great catch on the last second of the play, a former walk-on wide receiver at Clemson. 17, they didn't play. 18, they beat Alabama in one of the most odd locations for the national championship game, Santa Clara, California. They beat Alabama in that year 44-18, I think. And in 2019, they had the misfortune of playing the 800-pound chainsaw massacre, the 2019 LSU Tigers with Joe Burrow. And they hadn't been to the national championship game since, but 4 times in a 5-year span. Matt, as a coach, if you're Dabo Swinney right now and you're not a big fan of the portal, you're not a big fan of the NIL, neither am I. But I look no further than Exhibit A, the Auburn Tigers. Without those 41 new kids coming in high school recruits or the portal, most of my closest Auburn contacts and confidants said the Tigers would be looking at a 2 or 3 win season. Now they're looking at probably a lot better than that. If you're Dabo Swinney, what are you saying to your team right now? Because they got beat 31-14 in the Orange Bowl last year by Tennessee. And then they get beat 27-6 in game 1 by Duke with far less star power.
Well, first of all, let me address, before I say how I would handle my team if I were Dabo, it doesn't surprise me. My son worked for Mike Elko for 4 years at A&M.
Yeah. Okay.
I get, as good as Cutcliffe brought in those offensive players John described, Elko's one of the best defensive minds in the planet.
Yeah.
And you saw what they did last year. I think they were 9-4, had a bowl win, if I'm not mistaken.
They did.
And let's also look at the game for a second here, guys. And this is why I think Clemson's just fine. It's 13-7, 1st and goal at the 2.
Yeah.
And there was a 14-point swing on an unfortunate fumble at the goal line. So if Clemson pushes it in there and gets 14-13, Duke has to move the ball to get in position to score. Who knows how that game turns out? And I don't want to say all is right in Clemson right now, but they lost a road game, guys. If I'm Dabo, I'm like, look, in 3 weeks we get Florida State at home. If we can get better every game and beat Florida State in Clemson, which is a very difficult place to play at, then the world shifts back to our sunlight. And I'm just telling you, Clemson's going to be just fine. They didn't play well at all, and Duke's defense is pretty good, guys. That's what I saw.
No, I think you're right. Mike Elko came from Notre Dame to Texas A&M, and John, you and Matt both, and I follow these guys. Hell of a coaching job.
Coaching matters.
Yeah, it matters. And Dabo they still got the whole season ahead of them.
Yeah.
Let me go over a few of the games that the schedule rundown in the SEC this weekend. I'll tell you one I like: Vandy and Wake Forest. The Doors trying to get to 3-0. Ball State and Georgia. That's Club and Baby Seals. That'll be cruel. Eastern Kentucky and Kentucky. Texas A&M travels to Miami. I'm gonna tell you one big one, guys. Ole Miss going to Holman Stadium down at Tulane. The Greenies, man. Michael Pratt's back at quarterback. You know what? Arkansas got an easy game at home. Tennessee, not much of a problem. Texas at Alabama. Middle Tennessee at Missouri. And Florida should get them a win. Grambling at LSU. Arizona at Mississippi State. Furman in South Carolina. And Auburn at Cal. So some pretty dang good games out of those. John Hartwell, proud native son of UMS, before he went off to the Citadel and began his great career as an athletic director, currently at University of Louisiana Monroe. What stands out to you? You like that Vandy game?
Yeah, I think Coach Clawson at Wake Forest, despite the success he's had, obviously he lost his caller going as a grad transfer to Notre Dame. I think he's one of the best coaches there is out there. Again, when you look at star talent, they don't have 4 and 5 star guys on their team. But you're right, Vandy has gotten better. I tell you, so I think it'll be a decent game, but I think Wake wins that game. But I tell you, the game that's going to be interesting is Auburn at Cal, because anytime you go cross country, it's hard. It's a grind of a trip. I'm not sure if they, some teams who go across 2 time zones or 3 time zones have a tendency to leave the day before. I don't know if Auburn's going out there today or they're going tomorrow.
Today.
That'll give them a little more time to get acclimated. So that one will be one. And another one involving an SEC Pac-12 matchup. Arizona going to Mississippi State. I think that will be, a total contrast in styles there. State's going to try to grind it out. They're going to be physical up front, and Arizona's going to try to go the speed game. So I think that'll be a really good game as well.
Yeah. Matt, he's talking about that cross country. The previous AD at Auburn may have put him on a bus. He sent him on a bus a few times before. That'd be a rough trip. 193 stops each way. They wouldn't get there till after the game. But anyway, they're getting out there. But I know Hugh Freeze has been pretty public in his remarks of, I hope we don't schedule another one like this. He said, we're going to, I'm worried about Saturday. We're just going to be sitting around. But they'll have every minute of every hour of every day they're out there planned. That's how they do it. But Cal, look, the Pac-12 plays good football, and they're going to be wanting to prove a point as they go out. Auburn could get whacked out there if they're not ready to play.
Listen, I have a lot of great friends that are football coaches. I've hired football coaches as an MD, but football coaches are the most interesting group of men on the planet. I just want you to know that, because anytime, there's a situation that's a little adverse, they're going to make it sound like it's like Normandy. Okay.
Yeah.
And I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But John's right. I'm going to tell you what, Cal played really well week 1, even though I know it wasn't, probably the game of the week. I think that's a tough game for Auburn.
Yeah.
The game that's really intriguing to me in the SEC, and I know you guys know I had some A&M ties, and I may be a bitter dad, but I'm going to tell you what, Mario Cristobal, year 2 in Miami, they played well at A&M last year, lost a relatively close game. A&M feels good about the Petrino experiment right now. They put 52 up on New Mexico. Okay, New Mexico.
Yeah.
So will they do the same thing, or will they be a factor offensively at Miami? I think that's a game. If Miami wins it, you're going to start to hear some chatter. Because let me tell you something. When Elko left A&M, I talked to my son. He said, Dad, it's going to hurt that program. And it showed last year. Defensively, they were not very good last year.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of talent. They better find a way to win this week down in Miami.
Yeah, and John, he's talking about that's a road trip down to South Florida. I mean, it'd be, 150 degrees with 100% humidity. And not that it's, Arctic conditions in College Station.
No,
Texas.
listen, they're training it. They do.
They're ready for it. And you know what gets me is people overhype, don't you think, the weather conditions? I mean, football players will play in anything. In fact, the rougher the conditions, I mean, we all know those epic games growing up, the Vikings and the Packers with Bud Grant on the sidelines and a snowstorm, a blizzard. That's what football players are here for, John Hartwell.
Yeah, it is. But I do think, and you saw it a lot in week 1, I think you do have kids contending with cramps a lot more in the heat and humidity. So that's one factor. But again, in that game, College Station versus Miami, probably a little more humid in Miami, but you also may get an ocean breeze there. Hey, I don't wish ill will on anybody, but if A&M goes into a little disarray or tailspin this week, I'm not going to be real concerned because week 3, our Warhawks are headed to College Station, so I won't mind some dysfunction going on during that time.
Hey, look, you got to take whatever you can get. I mean, and it's, again, we say it's early. You're going to be, it's the third or the second big weekend of college football. Ole Miss at Tulane, Matt Dean. That Michael Pratt can flat out play quarterback. He's from, I think, Tampa or Fort Lauderdale. He almost left. He came back. The academics, and y'all can both understand this, they're pretty intense at Tulane. Ole Miss coming in, they scored 73 against Mercer. Again, that was a CBS game. But this is different. We all watched Tulane pull it out in the Cotton Bowl against Southern Cal. How dangerous is this game for Ole Miss if they're thinking, hey, it isn't an SEC game?
It's very dangerous. Not that they can't win the football game. I think from a line of scrimmage standpoint, Ole Miss can match up with a lot of people. So, I mean, hopefully that negates some of the other issues that come along with a quarterback. But let me just talk about Tulane a little bit. I mean, I think it's Willie Fritz, the head coach. I mean, I want to make sure I don't – I'm just always
Willie
impressed.
Fritz.
If I was an AD, and I know ADs pursue him like last season, he's a guy that would be in my short list. I just think he gets the most out of players. And let me tell you another thing. If I was a football coach, when I get on these planes sometimes with rows of gears, I no longer look like a basketball guy. I kind of look like an old lineman. So a lot of people say, hey, you coach football. I go, no, I look like I coach football. I just eat a lot. But anyway – if I was a football coach, I'd find me a 3-star quarterback that's a tremendous athlete, and then I would hire me an experienced offensive coordinator that loves quarterbacks, that doesn't want to stab me in the back to be the next head coach. And what you got there is a recipe for success, because this young man has been dynamite. It's going to be a tremendous game, and I just don't know enough about the Ole Miss defense, because I think if they can control the line of scrimmage, they can neutralize them. Because you got to think from an SEC roster standpoint, from a physicality standpoint, Ole Miss should win this football game. But I know that doesn't always happen, John. But I mean, from a physicality standpoint, you got to think that Ole Miss is better.
Yeah, what will be interesting? That will be a hot ticket there, because that's not that large. And
Yeah.
I promise you, the Ole Miss folks will be headed to Bourbon Street and then uptown to the game. So I think that'll be a good game to watch. Hey, Rob, I know we're winding down to the end. I've got to ask you this question.
Yeah.
You know, I know you're down there in the Redneck Riviera, kind of
Damn
my
right.
turf.
I love it.
But you're probably the only guy in that stretch of beach there from Fort Morgan to Perdido Key that's got on a collared shirt. I'm impressed that you dressed up.
Hey, I'll be, I would say I'll be shirtless, no, but I'll be wearing t-shirt. We'll be heading down to the beach. We came down, got down here last night about 7 or so, and went up to the Publix and was looking for some umbrellas and stuff. And most of the stuff is the big umbrellas that I wanted and stuff, and the big tents. They're off market, so we're gonna have to scrounge around and find what we can get. My big Auburn tent that I had lasted about 3 years, and one too many tornado type storms over have just blown it to pieces. So we're going to figure something out, but it's a great place to figure something out. We are going to go over to the Floribama and have a toast again today for Jimmy Buffett, because, this area down here, and Matt, you were just down here, I think, at Gulf Shores a couple of weeks ago. Mobile, Baldwin County, we went over the Africatown Bridge coming in. I was texting with Will Johnson. I said, if you're not careful, if you don't get off at exit 9 and get on Africatown Boulevard, go over that bridge, which is a beautiful bridge. I love Mobile. I love this town because I've been coming down here since I was less than a year old. Go to the Mobile Tunnel. What do you do? And I remember as a kid, you were always worried about, so there's water up above us. What if the thing broke? My dad goes, well, we'd have to swim our way out, but it never happened. But the port city is awesome. And Will Johnson's right. He's listening right now. He's like, when he moved to Memphis for a long time, that's where I met him. He said, I don't eat seafood up here. Okay. If it's been frozen, it's not seafood. And so, you're down here. I like Doc's Seafood here in Orange Beach. I love that place. And that's where I'm staying at my friend Barry Blackburn, who I went to Auburn with, and he passed away 9 years ago. One of my best friends, love him like a brother, went to Auburn with me, was my estate planning attorney, and he's got this place at Bella Luna. It's absolutely gorgeous. The deck is 40 feet long on the backside looking out over Ono Island, and you know how Ono Island got that nickname? I guarantee you, John Hartwell, a proud native son of the port city, and UMS High School can tell you. Do you know?
I don't know that I can tell you that, Rob. You may have some LA knowledge that I don't have.
Well, and as my friend and fraternity brother from Thomasville, Alabama, Tate Davis would say, LA, Lower Alabama. Well, what it is, the story Barry always told me was Florida and Alabama got in a border dispute over the island. They said, it's in Alabama, or it's in Florida. They'd say, oh no, it's not. And so it got the name Ono Island. Now, only an idiot savant like myself would know something like that. But I got to tell you, we're about wrapping up. But y'all too, it's awesome having y'all on here, because thank you for what you do for college athletics. Not only are you athletic directors and coaches, but you're mentors to a lot of people. And our listeners and viewers get a ton of value when you're on here because you speak with such conviction. You know the people across the country, but at the end of the day, we're all pulling for each other because, hey, I want my school to do well. I want my conference, but I want sports to be good all over the country because all the companies in America are going to be hiring these student athletes, and 99% of them, y'all know the numbers, ain't going pro in what they're playing. So as my friend Barry's grandfather, Big Stephen Winston Blackburn used to say, grandson, you better hit them books hard because you can make a living with your hands, but you can make millions with your mind. Get your dadgum education. Closing comments, and let me say, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and do positive things today. You never know what a kind word or kind deed can do to somebody that you see out on the street or whatever like that. And always remember to give back. I can't thank all the people who make this show work, our sponsors, our listeners every day. but it is a fun challenge to try to do it every day. Closing comments, John, first tell them how they can follow you, and then you, Matt, and then we will wrap her up.
Yeah, follow everything that's happening in Warhawk Athletics, ulmwarhawks.com. Got an undefeated soccer team taking to the pitch this afternoon against Southeastern Louisiana. As we mentioned, home football this weekend against Lamar. You can follow me on Twitter, John_.Hartwell. And again, just blessed to have friendship with you guys, be able to share this every week. And, like you said, competition is a good thing. That's one of the powers of sports. Life is a competition. This whole deal, we don't keep score. That's not the game of life. Competition is great. You win some, you lose some. It's easy to be a winner. It's how you react from losing in adversity that's really important.
Competition is the spice of life, as Coach Pratt used to tell us. Matt Dean, tag out, and we'll be back tomorrow, folks.
Just kudos to your weekend last weekend, John. Go soccer today. We had an 8-2-1 first weekend. Field hockey 2-0, women's soccer 2-0, men's soccer 1-0-1, volleyball 2-2, and our football team won 47-0. They're home this weekend. We got 5 teams coming on campus tomorrow for volleyball. We got football Saturday, soccer Saturday. So I'm going to be busy, Cat. But Saturday night at 6:00, I'll be in the recliner watching my Ducks go to Lubbock and go Ducks.
I love it, man. Hey, rumbleboxinggym.com. Check them out on our website, open every day of the week. And look, we'll be back on. We got a full show in store for you tomorrow. Thanks for listening. We're out of here.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am R.A. Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.